Good morning, everyone. I come to you here from St. Francis Xavier Elementary School to talk about my saint of influence today. And it's not St. Francis Xavier, but it is one of his friends and companions, St. Ignatius of Loyola. In fact, these two friends actually were some of the co-founders of the Jesuit order. But who is St. Ignatius of Loyola, though? Well, he started off his life as a soldier in the army, and he had a lot of grand ideas about being a soldier as well. He thought it was very admirable as well. And he went into battle one day, and he actually damaged his leg because a cannonball actually skipped off the ground and actually mangled his leg, which of course hospitalized him, and he really walked with a limp the rest of his life. While he was in the hospital, he read two different kinds of books. The first one he read was ones on chivalry and knights. And what he discovered with that was, though he enjoyed reading them, they left him wanting more afterwards. But then he found a book that talked about the life of Christ and the life of the saints. And what he discovered with that was how that didn't leave him wanting. That left him seeking. That left him going deeper into who he was. And what he later returned these terminology was, he found that the knights left him in desolation because he wanted more. And what reading about Christ and the life of the saints left him with was consolation, because they gave him affirmation and hope to what he was seeking. And that's kind of where he wrote, that kind of developed into his spiritual exercises and things like that too. So why is he the saint of influence for me? And I would say this, he is definitely second after Augustine. And that's because St. Ignatius is what my prayer life is built on. It's based off of his spiritual exercises, his Examen prayer. It's about his discernments of the Spirit. And when I was in the seminary at Notre Dame in New Orleans, my spiritual director there encouraged me to read a book by Timothy Gallagher called Discernment of the Spirits. It's this book right here, this very book. And the reason why he wanted me to read it, because he thought it would help me with my discernment in my spiritual life. And what the book talks about was how to tell the difference when the Holy Spirit speaks to us and when a demon is actually speaking to us. How do we know the difference between the good and the bad? What voice do we listen to? And how do we make decisions is what it comes down to. And that's why it was a very helpful book for me to read, because it really started helping me be able to listen to the Holy Spirit in me and also make decisions in my life. And from there, I read his book on the Examen prayer, which is actually where my prayer method, the main prayer method that I use in my life, is the Examen prayer. It's what I pray a lot of times every day, almost every day. I pray this prayer. So my spiritual life is deeply enriched by St. Ignatius, the Examen prayers and the spiritual exercises, as well as discernment of the spirits. And this is the spiritual exercises that I've read too. So as you can see, St. Ignatius has this rich influence on me, building up my relation with Christ, my understanding of the Holy Spirit that dwells in me from my baptism, and just my daily prayer. It defines how I pray. And that's how St. Ignatius is influential in my life. Not because of necessarily just his example of the life he lived, which is different than Augustine, but the prayers, method, and the strategies that he used for a spiritual life are what I use to enrich my own spiritual life, and I help others as well. I give advice and confession or spiritual direction or just talking to people. A lot of times it's based off of Ignatian spirituality and the way I encourage people to pray. So that's my second saint of influence. He influences my spiritual life. So today, on this second day of Saints of Influence, what saints have influenced your prayer life, your spiritual life? And how have they affected it? In what ways? So I hope you post that in the comments down below. And I look forward to tomorrow when we talk about the third saint.